Boze was born in Forest City, Iowa on December 19, 1946. When he was 6 months old, his family moved to Peach Springs, Arizona on Route 66. In 1956, the family moved to Kingman, Arizona, also on Route 66. Growing up on Route 66 turned out to be a major influence on Bob's interest in the history of the Wild West. As a child, he had no idea how important that road that spanned the United States was in history.
Well, I grew up in Kingman, Arizona. My dad had a gas station on Route 66, Al Bell's Flying A. And my mother worked for the highway department, and I iced jugs in my dad's gas station. So I basically grew up on the Mother Road, and I didn't get why it was a big deal because we all worked there, and it was just a road to me. It wasn't any different than Highway 93. But that's where I got my start, and I was always interested in the Old West. And the weird thing is that nothing ever happened in Kingman. I would go buy True West magazine, believe it or not, in downtown Kingman at Desert Drugs. And I would study all these stories about Wyatt Earp and Jesse James and Billy the Kid and Custer and Crazy Horse. And it didn't seem to me that anything happened in Kingman. And so I had this attitude about, I can't wait to get out of here. This is a dumb place because no history happened here. And about 5 years ago, I got a call from a writer in Kansas City, and he said, I saw your piece on your dad's gas station in Arizona highways. Can I interview you? And I said, yeah, sure. And so his first question to me was, what was it like growing up in such a historic place? And I said, oh, it was fabulous.
Kingman, Arizona offered some real Western culture, and Bob had some real cowboys in his family growing up.
Well, the cool thing about growing up in Kingman is that all of my relatives on my mother's side were ranchers and cowboys. In fact, my cousin Billy Hamilton was the world champion steer roper in 1964. So I had a lot of cowboy legacy on that side of the family. On my dad's side of the family, they were all Norwegians and farmers.
As a young child, Bob showed an early gift for drawing and art that would become his true calling later in life.
I knew that to get my father's attention, because he was this stoic Norwegian, that the only way I could get his attention was I would draw trains. And he would go, that's really good. And so I just became obsessed with drawing trains. And he tells the story that I soon could outdraw his primitive drawings and that I would start correcting his perspective. And he said I was 3.
Bob had an early fascination with Old West history, but was derailed for a time as his teenage years led to other interests. But his love for the True West magazine he read as a child never died.
Well, the weird thing is that I went through this Wild West obsession when I was between about 8, 9, and about 14. But then the Beatles hit, and I got in a rock and roll band, and I was into cars, had an Austin Healey, and I went to college and kind of left that behind. But I would see True West when I go into a Circle K or something, and I would think to myself, you know, because I was an art major, I would go, you know, I could do something with that magazine if I ever had a chance.
Bob would eventually become the owner of True West magazine. Bob's interest in Old Western history went on break when he started playing drums in a rock and roll band.
I wanted to be a sax player. My father was a sax player, and I had the sax for free, but I couldn't carry a note. And you know, they say that you have musicians and then you have drummers, and I became a drummer, and loved it. I love drumming.
Bob says he was really influenced by Phoenix's own hometown boy who was having national hits named Dwayne Eddy. Bob said, he had the hair and that big fat guitar sound that just floored me. I wanted to be just like him, but unfortunately, I was a drummer. Bob played in his first band in 1963. They were called The Exits. Bob says the name came from when someone said that was where people would head when they heard the band. Bob's band was one of the opening bands for the Beach Boys at a concert in Mesa, Arizona in the late 80s. He played in many bands over the years, and one of the most notable bands was the Valley favorite Smokey, circa 1979.
I also have a really strong love for rock and roll. So you're going to see Led Zeppelin and AC/DC and stuff that I do as well. Rock and roll is really the other half of my brain.
After graduating from high school in Kingman in 1965, he attended the University of Arizona in Tucson, majoring in art. Bob had been drawing for many years and showed a great talent. The music and the art were all part of Bob, and he loved both types of artistic expression.
They're very related, I think. Being a musician and being a cartoonist, and all the arts, I think, are related. I'm reading a bio on Georgia O'Keeffe, and she makes the claim, or she was studying and found out that music, repetition of music, and has a parallel to lines on paper. That if our brain reacts in the same way with endorphins when you see the lines, and it's musical. And so that makes sense to me that they're cousins, that they are somehow related. So I think being a rock and roll drummer is directly related to telling the true story of Wyatt Earp in Hollywood, which no one's ever told.
In 1972, Bob and Dan Harshberger started the Raz Review magazine. It was a humor magazine along the lines of the National Lampoon magazine that had started in 1970. In 1978, he created a comic book character named Honky Tonk Sue. That same year, he produced the first of 4 comic books featuring that character. Bob sold the rights to Honky Tonk Sue to Columbia Pictures as a vehicle for Goldie Hawn. 3 scripts were commissioned, the first 2 by Larry McMurtry, but the movie was never made. Bob continued to do his drawings and spread his name and art even further.
Well, I've always been considered myself a cartoonist primarily, and I only wrote to protect myself because when I would ask other people to write dialogue or narrative for me, I didn't like what they wrote, and so I kind of backed into that. I had a long career, 10 years I believe it is, at New Times in Phoenix. They actually hired me for $110 a week to be the art director, and I got an extra $25 for doing a comic strip on Honky Tonk Sue, which I did in a spare bedroom on 707 West McKenzie in downtown Phoenix, and ended up selling that to Columbia Pictures for a movie for Goldie Hawn.
From 1986 to 1994, Bob did a morning drive show called The Jones and Boze and Jeannie Show on KSLX 100.7 FM radio. His often controversial and wacky shows are now legendary in Phoenix radio history. In 1992, he published his first book called The Illustrated Life and Times of Billy the Kid. He has released 9 more books, all based on Western historical themes. In 1999, Bob Boze Bell bought True West magazine, the same magazine he read as a boy. He moved the editorial offices to Cave Creek, Arizona, where they are today. In addition to his artwork for True West, Bob's art and writing have appeared in Arizona Highways, New Times, Playboy, Wild West, National Lampoon, and many others. He has illustrated numerous book and CD covers, and he appears on the History Channel, Discovery Channel, and the Western Channel. He has illustrated for Disney's production of A.K.A. Billy the Kid, Northport Pictures' The War in Lincoln County, Discovery Channel's Outlaws and Lawmen, and the PBS production entitled Alias Billy the Kid. Bob is featured daily on True West Moments on Encore's Western Channel and answers questions that come in from around the world. Bob is one of Arizona's favorite artists, and he is the original Zany Zony, a term he originated on his radio show, who is woven into our entertainment history. His love for Arizona is clear.
You know, when I was in college, everybody in my college, Fine Arts, couldn't wait to get out of here. They were going to New York, they were going to LA, And everyone complained about what a backwater Arizona was. And I've heard this my whole life. And I, at some point, woke up, probably in my 20s, and just went, you know what? Go to the coast. Good. Get out of here. I love this place. It's cantankerous. It is true that the middle two letters of crazy are AZ, but I love the place because it is kind of weird and different, and people leave you alone. It is a beautiful place. I just came back from Durango, Colorado, and came across the Navajo reservation. And when you see those buttes and spires out there in the early morning light, I mean, it is just heavenly. That is the most ridiculously beautiful country on the planet. I've been all over the world, to Thailand and Europe and Paris and everywhere, and I've never seen the beautiful land that we have here.
With several new books in the works and the magazine starting to expand into digital online markets, Boze shows no sign of slowing down.
Well, I'm doing exactly what I want to do, and they say work is only work if you'd rather be someplace else.
Bob Boze Bell is a major part of the entertainment history in Arizona. He has lived in Cave Creek, Arizona since 1986.
But I'm doing what I want to do, and I intend to do it until the day I die.
We are proud to induct Bob Boze Bell into the Arizona Music and Entertainment Hall of Fame.